Good evening. I would like to call the Monday, April 17th, 2023 Orange Board of Education meeting to order at 7:13. Can we all stand for the pledge, please? I pledge allegiance Ms. Rodriguez, would you be kind enough to read the mission statement?
Yes, thank you. The Orange Elementary School District recognizes that the education of each child is the shared responsibility of every member of our community. Our goal is to inspire and empower each student to achieve academic excellence, embrace social and individual responsibility, and lead with integrity. We believe all individuals should be valued and treated with respect. Together, we will make a difference.
Thank you very much. Do we have any public participation? I don't believe we do. Mr. Ziman?
Something we already know on the Board of Ed, but the town...
Mr. Ziman, would you please, your address, please?
Oh, sorry. 899 Grassy Hill Road. Right in the middle of my speech. Anyway, something we already know at the Board of Ed, the town of Orange has learned, and they've proclaimed Mrs. Betty Hadlock a living treasure.
Thank you for that, Mr. Ziman. I did not know that. Congratulations. That's great. That is great. Well, we've always known that she was a treasure on the board here. Okay, so any other public participation? Very well. Before we get to the consent agenda, I would love to thank the board for the beautiful flowers that they sent. Michaela and my wife Phyllis say thank you very much. They're absolutely beautiful, and your thoughts are greatly appreciated by me and my family. Thank you. Consent agenda, I need a motion to accept the first item under the consent agenda. The first item is the minutes from the March 20th, 2023 Board of Education meeting. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes? Betty? Susan? Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain?
Oh, I should abstain too. Sorry.
All right.
My mistake.
All right, that's all right. You got that, Mike? Okay. We'll move right on to the superintendent's report. Dr. Scarpetti?
Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome everyone back from the April break. I hope everyone had a safe and enjoyable vacation. But believe it or not, we have 2 months left of the school year. And with that, there are end-of-year events, state assessments, field trips, and activities all are in full gear. This time of year is just one way we see our entire community working together to make our schools a special place on behalf of our children. I want to thank you to all our teachers, staff, and parents and administration who make this happen behind the scenes. We are grateful to each and every one of you. In addition to our school community, there are several organizations who also contribute all year round. One of them is the Orange Rotary. With the collaboration with the Orange Recycling Committee, will be having their Shred Day event from 9 to 12 this Saturday at High Plains. So for anyone who has done any spring cleaning lately and needs to get rid of some papers, please do so. And also on the same day, Rotary is having a food and diaper drive for anyone who's interested in donating any items. At this moment, I was also going to honor Mrs. Hadlock, but of course, Mr. Ziman, you know, he has a way of stealing that light. But again, Mrs. Hadlock, from all of us, yes.
How did it feel?
But Mrs. Hadlock, I want to thank you for your service, not only to the entire community, but specifically to the children of Orange, and specifically in assisting me in my role and that of the cabinet. You're truly an asset to the district and to the entire community. So thank you for your service. We do appreciate it.
Thank you, Dr. Scarpetti.
In addition to what we do, the budget is, as everyone knows, is in full force. The town budget hearing will be held this Thursday, April 20th at 7 p.m. This is a reminder that we have asked for a 3.37% increase. Also, as a reminder, out of that 3.37% increase, 1.21% is contractual obligation alone. I just want to remind that for not only the board, but many people watching at home. On Wednesday, May 10th, is the annual town meeting. That's at 7:30. That's again at High Plains Community Center. The Board of Selectmen meet prior to that at 7, and then we have the annual town meeting. Our town budget referendum is Wednesday, May 17th, and that's all day from 6 to 8 p.m. at High Plains Community Center. At this time, people ask, well, what about Amity budget referendum? That's actually May 2nd. I think, not that people are confused by that, but in case they are, I want to clarify that for anyone watching at home also, was that Amity's May 2nd, that's separate from ours, and the town that includes the Board of Ed, Orange, is on May 17th. And as a friendly reminder, as I just shared or inferred, the last day of school is June 13th. All this past few years, we've been talking about many grants. And so, again, I asked Mr. Gray to share about the grants that were given due to the pandemic. But in addition to these grants, which were given to the towns and cities and school districts, there have been a variety of competitive grants which a district has to apply for. Some have we been awarded, and others, unfortunately, have not. As shared in our subcommittee meetings, there have been new grants which we have applied for, which include security grants, mental health grants, and after-school grants. In a moment, Dr. Russo, Mr. Gray, and Mrs. Ito will review these grants. And specifically for those people that at our home that don't have the opportunity to read our minutes at our subcommittee meetings, I thought it'd be worthwhile to go over that. As always, I want to thank the board for their input and for their feedback with these grants, and specifically our administration, teachers, and staff for helping us complete the applications for these grants. And then, other than that, Mr. Kraut, that completes my report.
Very well. Any questions for Dr. Scarpetti? Very good.
Well, I have a question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Betty. Go ahead.
Dr. Scarpetti, you said that there were going to be some field trips going on. Would you care to mention a few of them, just so we have some sense
I
of where
think
students
Mrs.
are
Russo will
going?
mention that in her report.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else for Dr. Scarpetti?
Oh, I have one question.
Go ahead, Sue.
Are you aware if there's absentee ballots for the budgets?
I'm sure, yeah, that's typical.
Making sure.
Okay,
Okay. Check with the town.
okay.
I
Maybe
know
that's
I need-
something we could put on, we could, and I think for those mostly watching at home, what we could do that's appropriate, we only could share the date. We can't, of course, vocalize our thoughts of how we want people to vote for the
course.
budget, but that's something that maybe we could put on our website, Mrs. Riccio, that, of that there are absentee ballots for people that aren't able to attend. That's a good point.
Thank you.
Anyone else? All right. Thank you, Dr. Scarpetti. Mr. Gray?
Good evening, everyone. Dr. Scarpetti mentioned grants, so I'll begin my report with a recap of all of the grants we received as a result of the pandemic. Beginning with the American Rescue Plan, Elementary and Secondary Schools Emergency Rescue or Relief, ESSER 3, we had a total allocation of $326,181, and we have $81,301 remaining from that grant to be spent by September 30th of 2024. So we still have another year for those funds. We've already spent $244,880. The majority of that was spent on salaries, services, and supplies for the summer programming the last 2 summers. We also received an ESSER 2 grant, and that was $164,053. Again, that was used for salary, services, supplies during summer learning programs, and that has been completely spent. We also received the American Rescue Plan IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Act 611 and 619. That grant was an allocation of $72,921. To date, we've spent $71,889, so we have approximately $1,030 left. This has been used on special education stipends and professional development around restorative practices. We also received the ESSER 2 Special Education Grant, which was an allocation of $60,200. We spent $59,080 of that grant and currently have $1,120 remaining. Those two special education grants need to be spent by June 30th of this year. We've also received two competitive grants Dr. Scarpetti mentioned, and I believe Dr. Russo mentioned last month's meeting and may speak a little bit about it this evening. Those are the American Rescue Plan Elementary, Secondary Schools, Emergency Relief Innovation After School grants. We received a grant for Peck Place School and Racebrook School. We're only allowed to apply 2 schools. For each school, we received $239,549. And they're supposed to be used for innovative after-school programming for students, which has already begun. I won't steal Dr. Russo's thunder. I'll let her talk a little bit about that. And those are our grants that we've received as a result of the pandemic. Moving on, for the 23-24 budget, Dr. Scarpetti already mentioned that we will be having our hearing, the budget presentation hearing, this Thursday, April 20th at High Plains Community Center. Just as a reminder, the board did approve back in February a budget not to exceed 3.4%, and Dr. Scarpetti presented a 3.37% budget to the Orange Board of Finance on March 6th. And again, this goes to referendum on May 17th in town for the Orange Public Schools budget. We received word that we will receive some capital funding from the Town Board of Finance for the following capital improvement items: the mansard roof on the 6th grade wing of Peck Place School, the front entrance steps of Turkey Hill School, which are badly in need of being repaired, and for furniture refurbishment at Racebrook School, which has been part of our capital improvement plan for the last several years. So we need to start updating some of the furniture there at that building. In food services, as you know, we received money at the beginning of March. $60 million came from the American Rescue Plan, was allocated to the CSDE, the Connecticut State Department of Education, for free school meals. As a result, since Wednesday, March 1st, we have been able to provide free lunches to all of the children in our schools who wish to have a hot lunch. Families can find the free and reduced lunch application and other relevant materials by visiting oess.org. Hover over the departments and choose food service. This is for any families that believe they may qualify for free or reduced lunches. Dr. Scarpetti mentioned there are only 2 months left in the school year, but it's not too late to apply if you do believe that you qualify. And as a reminder, in February, the Connecticut State Department of Education distributed the 3rd allocation of supply chain assistance, or SCA, funding in the amount of $13,992 to the Orange Public Schools. The 2nd round of funding was in the amount of $25,793 that was received in October. These funds can be used to purchase unprocessed or minimally processed domestic food products for the National School Lunch Program. So it has helped to offset the rise in costs for food that we've been using for lunches. And that concludes my finance portion.
Any questions for Mr. Gray? Tatiana, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Gray.
Good evening.
The food funding, how long do you expect that? Will that extend into the next school year, or how long will those funds be available?
So right now, what we know is that this will last until the end of this school year. I believe there is a bill that is being presented to extend that in perpetuity. Not sure how that will happen, but I believe there is a bill out there for it.
Okay,
We don't know an answer for next fall
for
yet.
next fall. Thank you.
Right.
Anyone else for Mr. Gray? Very well. You want to move on to your next report?
Sure.
Thanks.
So for the facilities and operations, during the spring recess, we conducted another HVAC filter change. All filters for the classroom univentilators, the air handling units, rooftop units were removed and replaced to maintain our healthy indoor air quality. Our custodians were also hard at work over the spring break, power washing bathrooms, scrubbing floors in all areas of the building, and opening up all of the windows to increase the airflow and fresh air in the buildings. We recently completed, again, this goes back to what Dr. Scarpetti was saying about competitive grants. This is a grant that I had applied to last year, did not receive, applied to again. Recently completed the process of applying for a security grant through the State of Connecticut School Security Grant Program. This competitive grant provides funding to schools to implement security infrastructure improvements. Eligible projects under the SSGP include, but are not limited to, replacement or enhancements to doors and windows, access control systems, perimeter security, interior and exterior camera systems, and panic alarm systems. We as a district have applied for $200,000 and expect to receive notification of whether it will be awarded sometime in May. And as soon as we find that out, we will let you know. And that concludes my report.
Any questions for Mr. Gray? Very well, thank you, Mr. Gray.
Thank you.
Dr. Russo?
Good evening. I'd like to start my report by sharing some upcoming literacy awareness plan for our incoming kindergartners. Every spring, we invite them for some small tours of the school to get them comfortable coming to the building in August. And we play some games with them that provide us with some important information on key concepts such as their understanding or awareness of phoneme awareness, the alphabetic principle, language comprehension, and then we use that information to help create conditions for success when they do come in August, because we do feel that that is the best way to make them feel comfortable by providing instruction that is at their zone of proximal development. So that helps us prepare for their coming. And so our interventionists will receive their refresher training on those tasks of those indicators tomorrow morning at 8:30 for about an hour. And those sessions are scheduled to start this coming up Thursday and then May 4th and May 11th. This Wednesday is our Curriculum Wednesday, and what we have planned is that classroom teachers will continue to work on their curriculum maps. They are on a roll. They really want to get those finished up for June before they leave for summer vacation, because then the leadership team will review those and audit them. We have planned for our teachers of our multilingual learners to work on student learning plans. I'm going to work with them. I'll also be working with the Spanish teachers on updating our formative assessments or our common assessments. Our PE teachers will be working on preparing for the Orange Olympics. They're going to work on the fitness data. There's a whole new entry system for that for the State Department. And thinking about field day, because as Dr. Scarpetti said, that's going to be here before we know it too. Our art teachers are going to start preparing for the art show. And music teachers will continue their work on curriculum. As Dr. Scarpetti mentioned, the Connecticut State Department testing window for those smarter balanced assessments is from March 27th to June 2nd. Orange students will begin testing by the end of this week and should complete by the end of next week, unless there are some makeups that have to occur. That's the only reason why we would extend that window. And thanks to the support of the Board of Education for those one-to-one devices, because we can just really get that done smoothly, quickly, efficiently. Just so you know, students have had several opportunities to engage in the interim assessment block practice, if you will, and in addition to some practice tests, so that they are comfortable maneuvering through the platform, through those embedded tools, and they can just focus on content and doing their best. And as we know, it's just one data point, one moment in time, and so we do use that information in combination with other data points as well to help us plan for how best to meet their needs, best to meet student needs. Grade 5 students, and the Smarter Balanced Assessment, just as a reminder, is for students in grades 3 through 6. Only grade 5 students will take the next generation science exam or assessment. As Dr. Scarpetti and Mr. Gray mentioned, the after-school grant, which was a competitive grant, we did receive that, and Mr. Zyman is going to, I think, provide the most exciting details of where we are with that grant and parent parent and family interest in some of the plans for that grant. In addition, we applied for the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, Online Abuse Prevention Grant for $30,000. We submitted that April 7th. And this grant would provide a context to extend the learning of SOAR, which the Board of Education approved, which stands for the Students of Orange Acting Responsibly. And it is in collaboration with our Orange Police Department and the Youth Services Division Department specifically to address online abuse. And finally, there will be an opportunity for accelerated math tutoring for students in grades 6 through 9 for next year. The Connecticut State Department of Education is launching this high-dosage program, and as soon as the information for us to apply for that opportunity becomes available, we will do so. Now, as far as, actually, there's one other grant that we applied for that was shared with the curriculum subcommittee, and that is for additional weeks of summer learning for this year and for next year, for approximately $300,000. We did share information to all our families about that possibility. We know that it's late for planning, but as soon as it became available, we did apply, and we should be notified May 1st if we are awarded funding for that grant. And that, Mrs. Hadlock had a question about field trips. Now, I did want to share that the schools in their newsletters, I believe, or in the events, put together a nice document that we can also share with board members. But just to give you a little taste of some of the things that are coming up, on May 3rd, there's a grade 1 field trip to the Cabaret in Bridgeport. On May 11th, a grade 2 field trip to the Beardsley Zoo. May 16th, grade 3 field trip to the Maritime Aquarium. Let's see, there's a trip to Buttermilk Farm, and then Turkey Hill School, Sturbridge Village, Peck, Mystic. Then they do have those like Poggy parties.
6th grade goes to Holiday Hill.
Yes, thank you. But we can get a more comprehensive list for you, but at least you got a little taste of some places where the
That
students.
answers my question, thank you.
Oh, anytime. For the living treasure, anything.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I know you talked about the kindergartners coming in, I'm going to call them kindergarten interviews or appointments. Do the parents make an appointment, or how does that work?
So we sent out what is that, the Genius, thank you, Mike. The Sign-Up Genius, we provided the days and the times where they could sign up, and they signed up for those times.
Okay. So I have a couple other little questions. You said the PE teachers getting ready for the Olympics. I know when I was teaching, there was the presidential physical fitness test. Does that still happen? Kids still do that? And
That's it. If you, depending on how you score on all those subcategories, you can earn the Presidential
Right,
Fitness
so
Award.
they still do that?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
But the flexibility test is very tricky.
Well, there's a number of tricky things, as I recall. And I know you said the art teachers are getting ready for the art show. Will that be at the library? Is that going to be at each individual school, or
I
what's the
believe it's
format
at
for that?
I believe it's at the library, and I believe that the date, because I thought you might be asking me this, is May 31st. But we'll keep you posted on
Okay,
the
with the
location.
reception for families. and-
Right.
Yeah, because I know they used to do it. COVID
Yes.
kind of put a damper on it, but it's going to be nice to have the children's artwork hanging in the library again.
Yes, I think
Thank you.
that's what we planned.
Go ahead, Sue.
I just have a follow-up on Mrs. Hadlock's question. Again, when my son was in school, that was a few years ago now, they had the art kind of displays at each of the schools. Are they still doing that, or are they just doing the one at the library?
Well, I've been to some of the schools, they have art nights, and they
Right.
display the art throughout the entire building, and everybody walks through and sees that. And in addition, we have artwork hanging hanging at central office, and I believe in one of our board updates, we sent the information of, we sent the information of all the students, the titles of their
Yes.
work. And we do change that often as well.
I just
We
wanted
display
about,
it.
just to, parents to be aware that all of the students' artwork is usually shown in each school, but then there are some that are selected to be displayed elsewhere. That was my only,
That's a great point, yes.
thank you.
In addition to that, I think throughout the year, there's a bulletin board where I think the teacher also rotates grades throughout the year.
Tatiana? Okay.
Dr. Russo, I have a couple of questions. Just to add to Ms. Ricchio's. Is it, the artwork that is displayed, does that artwork go home with the students at the end of the school year?
Yes.
Okay. And then also the innovative after-school program, I know there is one going on now. Is there going to be more classes offered for those students who were not able to, the spots were filled? Are there going to be more spots that are going to be opening or new programs opening?
So definitely for those last 2 weeks, when after school gets out, and then I believe there's one more round.
Okay. And a notice will go out to parents to sign up?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then one last question regarding the field trips. Is it each school, like for instance, the first grade? I know you had mentioned the Cabaret in Bridgeport. Is that for instance, Peck Place School, but Racebrook might have a different field trip, so it's not the same across the board for all grades in each
Exactly.
school?
The teachers and the students in their classes, they decide where those field trips are going to be.
Gotcha. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anyone else for Dr. Russo? Thank you, Dr. Russo. Mrs. Zito?
Good evening, everyone. As Dr. Scarpetti shared, we have applied for many grants, and as part of our ongoing effort to support our children and families, we are pleased to report that we applied for a school mental health specialist grant. This grant includes the opportunity to hire a second social worker. We currently have one social worker at the district level. If awarded, the grant will fully fund the social worker position for fiscal year 2023, fiscal year 2024, and 70% of the funding for fiscal year 2025. Dr. Scarpetti and Mr. Kraut signed a letter of commitment that was attached to the application to demonstrate our understanding of the funding agreement and our commitment to our families. We hope this letter will increase our chances for this funding with this round of grants. And we'll keep you posted regarding the outcome of that application. And speaking of our social worker, Diane Downey will launch another book talk this year. The book is titled The Gift of Failure: How the Best Parents Learn to Let Go So Their Children Can Succeed by Jessica Leahy. The sign-up was available on our website and sent to families through principal newsletters. As a result, 42 families requested the book, and the first book talk will take place Tuesday, April 25th, either at 12 noon or 7 o'clock at night, where chapters 1 through 7 will be discussed. And then an additional opportunity to continue the chapters will be Tuesday, May 9th, again at noon, or at 7 o'clock at night, where chapters 8 and 12 through 12 will be discussed. Families who signed up will receive specific information regarding the sessions that they chose to attend. And that concludes my report for this evening.
Any questions for Mrs. Zito? Go ahead, Betty.
Is the book group, is that going to be live in person, or is that on Zoom?
That is something that our Diane Downey is working out with the families that signed up to find out what their preference is. She may do a combination of in-person and remote. If enough people want to come in, she'll host it in person and then also allow people to participate remotely. But that was something she'll work out with the individual people who signed up.
But because I imagine there's families from each school involved. It's not just one.
Correct.
Right.
So I think her plan would be to host it here, I believe, at the board room.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Susan?
Mrs. Zito, can you repeat the name of the book again?
Yep. The Gift of Failure, How the Best Parents Learn to Let Go So Their Children Can Succeed by Jessica Leahy. If you'd like a copy, I'd be happy to get one for you as
I
well.
would love one. Thank you.
Okay. Betty, you would like one? Okay, yep. Okay, very good.
Mrs. Zito, I would like one as well, if that's possible.
Yep, so we have 4, Carmen, Betty, Sue, and Ken. Okay, 5. Be happy to do that.
Anyone else for Mrs. Zito?
Mr. Crowd, if I may,
Yes.
the shows are going to be at each school, not at the library. They're at each school. We looked that up. I think a few exhibits are shown at the library, but it's not how it's been in the past.
Will you be sending out notices to the board? on
Of the
art-
dates of the art show?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, in the past, that's been done. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Ito. All right, so we're going to move on to board business.
Just going back to Dr. Russo, the field trips, how are they funded, and do we have funds to make sure that all our students are attending?
The PTO and PTAs help us. And then some of the students will pay a portion. But we always help anybody that may be in
Correct.
need. Nobody's
Yes.
left behind.
If there's a family in need, the students are supported in that.
You're welcome.
Anyone else? Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to board business. It looks like I have some reading to do. We do this once a year. I think most of us are familiar with this. Okay, so operational memorandum, process for submitting the healthy food certification statement for the school year of 2023-2024 pursuant to CGS Section 10-21-5F. I am asking for a motion that the Orange Board of Education certifies that all food items offered for sale to students in the schools under its jurisdiction and not exempted from the Connecticut nutrition standards published by the Connecticut State Department of Education will comply with the Connecticut nutrition standards during the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024. This certification shall include all food offered for sale to the students separately from reimbursable meals at all times and from all sources, including but not limited to school stores, vending machines, school cafeterias, culinary programs, and any fundraising activities on the school premises, sponsored by the school or non-school organizations and groups. Susan, Tatiana, second. Any further discussion? I really don't have anything else to say.
You were done?
All in favor? Opposed? Abstained? All right, then. I feel like it's a test. That's what I feel. Am I doing okay? All right, very good. Okay, I am asking for a motion that the Orange Board of Education will allow the sale to students of food items that do not meet the Connecticut nutrition standards, provided that the following conditions are met. 1, the sale is in connection with an event occurring after the end of the regular school day or on the weekend. 2, the sale is at the location of the event. And 3, the food items are not sold from a vending machine or school store. An event is an occurrence that involves more than just a regularly scheduled practice, meeting, or extracurricular activities. For example, soccer games, school plays, and interscholastic debates are events, but soccer practices, play rehearsals, and debate team meetings are not. The regular school day is the period from midnight before to 30 minutes after the end of the official school day. Location means where the event is being held and must be the same place as the food sales. Note, if the Board of Ed votes no to participation in the healthy food option, a vote on whether to allow food exemptions is not required. Do I have a motion?
Yes.
Mr. Ziman, second. Susan? Any discussion on this one? Yes, Betty?
I just want to make sure I understand what you're saying,
I,
because I'm not sure I do. This is for like when Turkey Hill just had their play. They might have sold drinks and cookies or candy or something, that sort of thing. What about our after-school program? Does this have anything to do with that?
I don't believe so, no.
Does not.
No.
No, because,
Okay.
no.
And we are, I mean, I guess we have to assume that they are providing healthy snacks to students after school.
I think that's a safe assumption,
Right.
yes.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Okay. That's right, Mr. Gray, right?
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, so I believe I had a motion from Mr. Ziman and Susan. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very good, thank you. Okay, I am looking for a motion to approve the purchase of a kiln for the Turkey Hill School not to exceed $9,100. This is being purchased by the PTO, I believe. They do have the funding. They have gone through the proper channels with the town for permits. They have consulted with the fire marshal. So it looks to me like they crossed their Ts and dotted their Is. So I am looking for a motion to approve that purchase of a kiln for the Turkey Hill School. Betty?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I'm going to wait until the motion when you ask for questions.
Okay, so do I have a motion? Susan, do I have a second? Mr. Ziman? Betty, go ahead.
Is there currently a kiln at Turkey Hill School?
There is. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mike.
There is a kiln, but it's been inoperable for several years now. Peck Place School received a new kiln probably 5 years ago, I believe. Racebrook School is probably going to be due for one as well.
And
But
were-
they do have
Okay,
kilns.
were the kilns at the other schools purchased by the PTO as well?
The newer one at Peck Place School was.
Okay. All right, so this is something the PTO has been fundraising for, and, okay. The other, I guess, that also includes taking out the old kiln, installation, all the, yeah. Thank you.
Typically, when the board of the PTOs and A's get together, they set goals for themselves. Turkey Hill was a track at one time also. Peck was the kiln, but yes, they set goals and raised the money over years. And this is something that Turkey Hill did wanted to do for the art program.
Curious to know, is the person in charge, or is the teacher, is there a special certification that goes along with their execution of using this apparatus?
I would imagine that would be the art teacher, correct?
Yes.
So the art teachers are responsible for the use of the kilns, and they do know how to use them.
So there is training, and OSHA also has approved.
OSHA was not involved in the specific situation, but we've reached out to the town. Jamie Vincent himself, the fire marshal, came out, inspected some of the costs that has occurred, because they actually wanted to have the kiln in a total different location, which would have increased the cost, because there's got to be proper ventilation and such. So they're keeping it in the same room. Everything's established. They're upgrading the fan in there and the ventilation, but there is training done that the art teachers know how to do. They've done it for years. They've operated these kilns. It's just a newer model that's hopefully more effective and efficient to produce all the work that has to be put in the kiln.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, no further discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very good, thank you. We've got a few first reads to go through. Policy first read 4118.6 Code of Ethics. policy first read 5150/3516.3, accident reporting. Policy first read 4118.8/4128.8, weapons and dangerous instruments. And policy first read 4117.5, termination of employment. Their first reads, they will be up for a second read in May. Any questions, please contact Dr. Scarpetti, myself, or, as always, Mrs. Hadlock. Boy, I am really reading tonight.
You're doing fantastic, Mr. Pratt.
Holy cow. All right, policy second read, 6142, basic instructional program. Do I have a motion to accept policy 6142 as presented? Mr. Ziman, do I have a second? Tatiana, any discussion on this particular policy? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Very well. Policy second read, policy 6180, evaluation of the instructional program. Do I have a motion to accept policy 6180 as presented? Susan, second. Mrs. Hadlock, any discussion on this policy? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Good. Policy second read, policy 6142.2, reading language arts. Do I have a policy to accept policy 6142.2 as presented? Mr. Ziman? Susan, any discussion on this? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Policy second read, policy 4112.4/4212.4, health examination. Do I have a motion to accept do I have a motion to accept policy 4112.4/4212.4 as presented? Mrs. Hadlock, Tatiana, any discussion on this policy? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Mrs. Hadlock, you've been very busy. Very well. We're done with all those. Standing committees, Finance and Operations, Ms. Riccio.
Thank you. The Finance and Operations Subcommittee met prior to this meeting. We reviewed the budget. It's all within budget. We're under budget. We're in good shape. We reviewed the cafeteria. As a reminder, lunches are free, so if a parent wants their child to receive it, just go right ahead. Also, I wanted to, Mr. Gray also updated us on the grants as well, as he did during the meeting. And I'm very happy to hear about the innovation grant that we were awarded. It's very exciting to hear and see it go into place. That's it.
Any questions for Ms. Riccio? Very well. Personnel Transportation, Mrs. Hadlock.
Our committee met on April 3rd. We discussed the 4 second-read policies that are noted on the agenda. There were updated regulations to add, adoption dates to report, and some language modifications. As Mr. Kraut said, please read through the policies, and if you have any questions, reach out to me or Dr. Scarpetti or Mr. Kraut, and they will be first reads at our May meeting.
Any questions for Mrs. Hadlock? Very well. Buildings and Grounds, Mr. Cap.
Our committee met on April 3rd as well. Mr. Gray pretty much covered everything that we went over, which was the facility updates during spring recess. And also, we went over some security updates in the security grant as well. But that was it. If anyone has questions, always reach out to me as well.
Any questions for Mr. Cap? Very well. So we got a little bit of a tease from Dr. Russo that there's something exciting coming from Mr. Ziman, which is always the case. Mr. Ziman.
Hi. First of all, I want to tell everybody to not bother turning on their recorders, as this will be very short. Today, someone said that across the country, politicians are trying to make educational policy. To be sure, what's happening in Connecticut is a much more benign intrusion than many others, and the Right to Read Act did include a waiver process. This allows those districts that wish to be able to make a case that they don't need this oversight. That was filled out and sent in. Now the state came up with another form that had to be submitted. The good thing about the second form is that it will allow the state to compare its hoped-for goals and philosophies with those of Orange. From an educational point of view, I have to believe that the only conclusion they can draw from this comparison is how far much of the state still has to go to catch up with Orange. Regarding the ARP ESSER Competitive Innovative After-School Grant update. 120 students are currently registered for weekly enrichment sessions. A survey regarding parent interest for summer sessions for their children for the 2 weeks after the end of the school year was shared with families on April 3rd. 227 families have responded that they are interested in these opportunities thus far. Lastly, I have a public service announcement. The Connecticut U.S. Attorney's Office is presenting a program titled Internet Safety for Parents, Teachers, and Child Workers. That's the title. I think they mean anybody who works with children. Anyway, it is about internet safety, and it will be May 2nd at 6 o'clock. And they said to register in advance. The website is very long, so the best thing to do would be to look on our website and get it and cut and paste it.
Any questions for Mr. Ziman? Very well. Thank you, Mr. Ziman, by the way, for bringing to our attention Mrs. Hadlock's award. It's well-deserved. Yeah, I like that, too. All right. So I am looking for a motion to adjourn this evening. Oh, ACES, I'm sorry. I turned the page too fast.
So the ACES Governing Board met April 5th, Wednesday, which was a change in date because of spring break and a change of day because of schedules. So at the ACES meeting, we discussed quite a few of the budgets, the difference between ACES and, say, the Orange budget. We have one budget that we really view for 4 of our schools, plus all of our other things that we do. ACES has separate budgets for each school. So this month, we looked at Whitney Academy, Village School, EIBI, PBS Marketing, Family and Community Engagement, International Educational Center for the Arts, Wintergreen District Magnet School, and ACES at Chase. We got to review all of those budgets. That was great. But they actually, they really were good because they really questioned what they were spending money on and making sure they're being responsible to the districts, which I thought was really good. There's a lot going on up at the state as well. One of the things that's of interest to ACES and maybe to our listeners as well is about the magnet school tuition that the state reimburses for. It hasn't changed in 20 years, and it clearly doesn't cover a lot of the cost of the tuition, which ends up impacting us as district if any of our students go to a magnet school. So the challenge is that the state is considering raising the tuition that they pay that we'll reimburse so that the districts will ultimately pay less. So we're hoping that gets passed. That's one of the things that was discussed. We also discussed the ACES Gala, which was held 3/23/23, March 23rd, 2023. Unfortunately, I had COVID, so I was not able to attend, but I did still participate in the silent auction. As a result of all of the fundraising, the ACES Foundation raised $128,000, which was fantastic. With that, Anthony's and Dr. Scarpetti was there. Sue Cohen was there, former board member as well. It was very good. There was, sorry. There was a couple other items that I wanted to mention. One was that there are quite a few openings at ACES, so if people are looking for positions, they range everything from a bus driver to a aide to lots of different things. So look at the ACES website if you're interested. That's about it for now. Oh, one other thing was that the ACES we did renew the teacher's contract and did approve their contract, so that was the other big thing. That's it.
Any questions for Ms. Riccio? Very well. So I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting. Susan?
Yes.
Mr. Ziman, second. Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Abstain? Thank you very much. We are adjourned at 8:03.